Hi, party people. It's your girl, Lolade Shionbola, here on Black Genius. I have my superstar bestie, this darling Uzomaka on the show with me today. What's up? How you feeling? Let us know in the comments where you're at, where you're watching from, what's good with you. Today we're gonna we're gonna tell Uzo's story, and we're gonna do a little bit, things a little bit differently, and just kick back and have a conversation about all the things. So Uzomaka is recently, exploded into my life. Her brother calls her a human catalyst to everything she touches. Hi, Oni. He's commenting. He's a catalyst to everything she touches, and nothing is truer than that. Everything is picked up at NOIR Labs over the last month. You guys only see us really doing Black Genius and a couple posts here and there. But there's a lot of behind the scenes work that's happening, and Uzo has made it possible for us to really, kick into gear. I could not have gotten through the last 6 weeks without her. So I'm so grateful for you. I love you.
Thank you. I love you too. It is an honor. Yes, we're just in here doing the work.
So we're talking. You're in Jersey, and I have to shout out. I got to talk about your outfit because I was telling you that you were channeling all the goddess energy. Like we don't get the makeup. So when it's NOIR Labs meetings, because we do video all day,
it's a whole different thing.
It's a whole other look. Like we barely have, yeah. So it's good to see the Empress come out.
She any opportunity that she has to come out, she is here for it.
I'm so here for her. So we're gonna talk. You're in Jersey. I got connected with Uzo from her brother Oni, who was very instrumental in just the building up of NOIR Labs and defining of what we do and who we are. And one day he was just like, I gotta introduce you to my sister. and it was, it's been sparks ever since. So Uzo, let's start your story, because you're in Jersey now, but that's a very temporary kind of, thing for you. You've been all over the country. And now, it's Alkebulan. So I just want to give you a chance to say what's up to the people and kind of tell us the beginning of your story.
Oh my. Well, hello people. Hello. Thank you guys for joining. I know a lot of you guys who are joining have not seen me in a minute. I've been under a rock for the last few years. So it is a pleasure to come out and see everybody. Thank you, Lolade. Thank you, Oni, aka Onyeka. I appreciate it. Yes, I'm in Jersey now, but I consider myself an ATLian from the ATL. I was born in Nigeria, but I grew up in Connecticut. And when I was about 19, I moved out to Atlanta and was there for about 13, 14 years. So that's where I consider my heart and my home.
So born in Nigeria. What part of Nigeria were you born in?
I was born in Antigua, so in that area, so close to Aba, maybe like 30 minutes from Aba. So that's Igbo land.
I was about to say, anybody who doesn't know from your name, you're from Igbo land, and your parents came to the States when you were how old?
Well, my dad was already in the States. He had been in the States since, I don't know, maybe the 70s. And so he came to Nigeria, married my mom. And so he had to come back. And so my mom had me in Nigeria. And then after a few years, my dad came back and got us. And then we went back.
What was it like growing up in Connecticut?
As Connecticut is great. Actually, we grew up in Windsor. And I actually love Windsor. Windsor is a wonderful town. It's so diverse. It's like 33, 33%, white, 33% black, 33% everybody else, you know what I mean? So it was really diverse. It was really great. The only thing is, like, it's great when you're a kid. As you get older, once you graduate high school, it's no longer great. It's boring. It's nothing to do. It's nothing to do. Went to UConn for 2 years, University of Connecticut, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. UConn is woo.
You told me, I think it was our first or second conversation, you were telling me how at UConn, black folk, nobody would sit next to the black folk. Talk about that.
UConn was racist. Okay, so this is like 2002 to like 2004. I don't know how UConn is now. No shade to anybody who's at UConn, but when I was at UConn, It was bad. We had like, I don't know what percentage Black folk out of like 14,000 students. We had maybe 500 Black people, you know what I mean? And out of that 500, probably 400 played a sport.
Wait, what's basketball? Y'all were big on basketball, right? At UConn.
Yeah, we were big on basketball. Yep. So I was there with Emeka Okafor and Josh Boone, and who else was there? Charlie Villanova. So it was cool. The basketball was great. But yeah, it was races out there at UConn. It was wild. So it was different because coming from Windsor, when everybody's mixed and everybody's doing things together, to go into UConn, where, like I was telling you, you could be in a lecture hall and nobody want to sit next to you. I'll have one empty seat here, one empty seat here. You look around, there's the other Black kid. He got one empty seat here, one empty seat here. You look around, you see the Black girl. Oh, she's sitting with people, but she's a basketball player. And then there's people sitting on the floor, and it was just interesting, you know. But there's people from all over. So
that's what took you to Atlanta, was the racism in UConn.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. I was like, I can't do this. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be where I'm welcomed. I want to be comfortable in my schooling environment. So actually what happened is I was looking into an exchange program, right? And so I thought it was Georgia State, right? So I look up Georgia State and I'm like, oh, I'm in love. Look at this. It's Atlanta. It's diversity. It's Black folks. It's everything. And they weren't big in sports, you know, so that was good because then it's a focus on academics versus a focus on sports. And so I go to like the meeting for the exchange and I find out it's actually not GSU, Georgia State University. It's the University of Georgia. And I was like, oh no, we're not. This is like probably another UConn. So, but I was already in love. So like, we're going to Georgia State. And so I applied, got in, and I was outie. And it was wild because you go to Georgia State. I remember like my first time there, you're sitting at an empty table and this white boy comes up and he sits next to you and you're just like, are you lost?
Am I in trouble?
Hey, what's happening? It's a whole nother world. So it was great.
So being Nigerian, because I remember you telling me how, y'all played with kids from every part of the globe in Windsor, and you were pretty young when you came to the States. So what was that transition for you like in terms of, acknowledging your Blackness? And because Atlanta is, the Black Mecca we talk about, right? So, like the enjoyment that you got from Atlanta, I want to talk about that, but I want to think about it through the lens of like what it meant for you growing up, as a Nigerian American.
First generation, that's a challenge. That's a tough one, especially, I was the firstborn out of my mom and my dad and the first girl. So that's a whole other set of challenges. So
like what?
Oh man, it's a responsibility. You know what I mean? I was, had a lot of responsibilities from young, mowing the lawn, taking care of my brothers, even though we would have people coming in and out. That was my responsibility. As soon as I could push a chair to the sink, I was washing dishes. Like, you have to get in where you fit in and you got to get it going, And my father was very, 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 very strict. I think strict is an understatement. So I wasn't allowed to do much of anything. But it was, it's first generation, that hustle, like it's wild. And then, their whole thing is just academics, and I understand, as I've gotten older, I've understood better where they're coming from. They're like, we're here, we want to create a new life. There's no, just focus. No time for play, no time for fun, no time for anything else, no friends, whatever. Friends. What do you need friends for? Your friends are these days, okay?
That's bringing money in the house. Why are you going outside to play? For what?
For what?
Yeah.
But luckily when I was really young, I'm grateful for growing up in a time that I did, because up until probably like 10, that was, we played outside, we had fun, had all the friends in the neighborhood. And then, as you got older, that kind of all came to an end.
So talk about Atlanta. What was it about Atlanta for you that, made it home, makes it home?
Yeah, Atlanta. And shout out to first generations, by the way. Big hug. Actually, we're gonna give
we're gonna get back to the trauma. Don't worry.
Big hug. No,
We're talking about
fast forward.
Nigerianness. We're gonna get to it.
Yeah, Atlanta was great. Atlanta was amazing, actually. To be in the city, to be at Georgia State. Met amazing people. My roommate at the time, shout out to Tanny Joy. We had a blast, you know what I mean? And I got to meet a whole different crew of people. I was part of the woke Black folks, the Hoteps, the academic Black folks. And it was awesome. It was awesome. And then also Atlanta, I got to experience really all gamuts of life. I got to experience just the opulence of Atlanta. And I also got to experience the poverty of Atlanta. You know what I mean? Being evicted, can barely pay your bills and stuff like that. And it was a hard time. It definitely was a hard time, but it was bittersweet because I realized why God really puts us in these situations. You know what I mean? Because it plays a role in the other work that we do later on. So Atlanta was amazing. I love Atlanta forever. I love Atlanta forever. I love Atlanta.
So something that a lot of y'all might not know, I didn't say this in the beginning, so Uzo and I are twin spirits, right? So when we got to talking, it was like, oh, you did this too? Oh, you had a horrible marriage too? Oh, your parents traumatized you too like that? Same. Oh, nobody picked you up from school on time? Like, oh, okay. Were we separated at birth? Like, okay. So the gift and the blessing of Uzo and the conversations that we have, we talk a lot about, what it means to be first generation and places like Brooklyn and Atlanta, how they, how Atlanta for you and Brooklyn for me really kind of restored that Black pride and that grounding, and created, allowed you to create a community. Whereas, one of the things that happens with that sort of immigrant experience is that you don't find your people because you're so kind of far from your parents' mindset. They don't cultivate the kind of relationships that you might gravitate towards.
Right.
So, talk about that. Talk about the sort of identity experience, the identity formation journey for you as as a Nigerian, somebody who became a hotep and Alkebulan. How do you pronounce it? Alkebulan?
Alkebulan. Yeah, Alkebulan. Yes.
Alkebulan.
That's a great question. I think, to be honest, it started, I think, in around the 8th grade, like the summer of my 8th grade, going into high school, I read Roots. And that changed my life. For anybody who have not read Roots, please read Roots. Not the movie is wonderful, but the book, oh.
What was it about the book?
It just goes into so much detail, and starting from the motherland and, Kunta's life before and how he ended up going into slavery and, just the whole story, you know what I mean? From his perspective, and it's a thick book. So it really, really goes into detail, like everything. It feels like you're there and you're with him. And to read that at such a young age is like, oh, wait a minute. What's happening? There's another book I read as well. I don't remember how old I was. It's actually a children's book. It's a very, very great book. I don't know if it's still in print. It's called A Girl Called Boy. Okay. And it's about this girl and her nickname is Boy. I don't know how. And she ends up running and falling and knocking her head and getting transported back into slavery. And so that was very interesting, especially since it's like a children's book, probably like, I don't know, 4th, 5th grade, maybe 6th, 7th grade or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was a precursor to Roots. After Roots, Malcolm X. And then you're just interested. You're like, what is this? What is this story? What's happening? You know what I mean? What's going on? And also being Nigerian, we know that our history doesn't start with slavery. You know what I mean? For many of the diaspora, their history, the history starts at slavery. What were folks doing before slavery? What was happening all those millions of years? You know, and that kind of led me down the exploration path. Who were we? What were we doing? Like, how did we even get into this situation?
Okay.
You know, and that's how it all began.
Was Roots assigned reading at your school? How did you come up on Roots?
I read all the time as a kid. In the summer, I would read like 100 books. Like, no kidding. I would just read and read and read and read and read. We had Roots, the movie. It was actually a gift. One of the elders, one of my good friend of my mom's, gifted it to my mom when she passed away. And so we had it. I had seen it. We had the whole thing. So I don't know if I was at the library. I don't know, divine intervention. I don't know, just the book. And I was like, all right, let me read this. Let me look at it.
So that sent you on a journey, and then you read Malcolm X.
Yeah.
And that sent you on a journey of sort of self-searching. Because I'm curious what your understanding of the Black sort of, you know, experience was before the book. How did it change? What did it change for you? Just the understanding that history started before slavery, or?
Well, you know, being Nigerian, we knew that the history was before slavery, you know, because we know, you know, we're coming here under different circumstances. Although it's all connected to colonialism, you know, but it's slightly different circumstances. I don't, you know, that's a good question. Coming up in school in Windsor, race was a thing, but it wasn't really, you know. In Windsor, mostly everybody was immigrants. You know, we were mostly Jamaican, Caribbean, very, 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 you know, few Black Americans, you know. So I don't know. I think also in some of my classes as well, we learned about things, you know, like, you know, the real story of Columbus and things like that, which was interesting to me because I was what do you call it? I'm grateful to have been able to take some of the classes that I did. I took a lot of gifted seminar classes, and I was surprised because the things we learned was not the same thing that everybody else was learning. You know what I mean? And I was also curious to me, like, why are we learning this? There's only like how many maybe 5 Black people in this program, you know, which was the most, you know, they had in all the years. You know, why are we learning this? And then my friends, they're not. I don't know if that answers the question. So I don't know. I don't remember. That's a good question. I don't really remember what my thought, if I even had a thought, if I even had a framework for race in that way during that time. It probably wasn't until, you know, reading these books and taking these classes.
So in Atlanta, you worked with nonprofits and for-profits, helping them develop business. And I remember you telling me how, you know, you knew that if you were going to contribute to change, it was going to be, you know, it was going to be through business, through enterprise. Yeah. And, you know, your undergrad was in finance, right? And you wanted to understand, talk about your choice to study finance and, you know, what that.
That's a good question. Finance, I fell in love. Well, it's 2 parts, right? So one part is I always knew I was going to be rich. I was a hustler even when I was in elementary school. You know what I mean? For those of my childhood grade school friends who are watching, I don't know if you guys remember, like I used to take the pencils, you know, those really soft pencils, and I used to sharpen them. And when you sharpen them, they would make these beautiful, beautiful spirals. So I started to sell these spirals.
You will get.
I started to sell these spirals. They were artwork. If you were anybody in Ms. Beauregard's class, you had some of these pencil shavings. And so people would buy, you know, shout out to Emily Ellington. I think she was one of my top clients. And so that, you know, in the 5th grade, selling candy, shout out to Kelly, you know, and things like that. So I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always knew I wanted to be in business. You know, since I knew I wanted to be in business, you got to understand money. You know what I mean? So that's one part. The second part was, I think it was like the 7th grade in math class. We did the stock market game. And this is back in the 90s where the stock market game, you had to read the newspaper. I don't know if anybody remembers the stock market ticker was in fractions, 14/18 of a cent. You know what I mean? Where you had to buy stock with paper and pen. It was a whole different thing. And I fell in love with that. I absolutely fell in love with trading and stocks and finance. And so by the time it's time to go to school, I'm like, what do I want to learn? And then the third part is this whole, awakening thing. And I'm like, I understanding that we live in this matrix. Matrix also came out around the time I was in high school, what is happening, and I wanted to understand the system of money. What is this thing, And it was interesting because some of my people were like, finance, like, what is that? What is that? Not that they didn't understand, but if you part of the, power to the people, why are you studying this thing? But it was so important to me to really understand how this system works. So yeah, that's why I did finance.
What were some of the things that were, kind of fundamental, kind of earth-shattering for you as you studied finance?
This whole thing is fake. All this thing is fake. It's not that it's fake, but it's not real. You know what I mean? When we think of money, when we think of resources, especially being melanated people across the globe, our resources are really connected to something. Even back in the day, you have cowrie shells. You could take the cowrie shells now. You can make a necklace. You could make something, money being backed from gold, et cetera, et cetera. Then you take finance and you realize this whole thing is a game, okay? A game with imaginary monies. You know what I mean? And the amount of money, like one of my classes I took a derivatives class where, you're learning futures, options, different things like that. And you learn that they're trading trillions of dollars a day of imaginary money.
How is that possible? How are they able to do that?
Well, so like it's not, I guess eventually you could trace it somewhere. But one of the things with like derivatives, you're buying and selling contracts. You're buying and selling just your word, you know what I mean? And what the valuation of these things, it's really based on, the wind. How people are feeling, the emotions, what's happening. Of course, when some things happen, the market may crash, but that's usually just because people are feeling a certain kind of way. And so, just the valuations of things, it's very arbitrary. There you go. That's the word. It's very, very arbitrary. Learning about the Federal Reserve, it's a private company. When the banks get their money, they're able to multiply it 9 times. So they have $1 in their hand, but they can use that dollar as if it's $9. Where's the other $8? It does not exist. Okay. But me and you, we're going to work every day, right? We're going to work. We're doing real work, not to say that they're not, to get real money that we use to pay off these loans off of money that actually never really existed. It's a game. This whole thing is a game. And it's a new game too. Finance is a very, 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 very new game. So it's just,
Explain, what do you mean by how new? What do you mean by that?
Like a lot of the regulations, a lot of the things, they're relatively new, I can't give you a time frame, these years are just going by, but they're relatively new. And so you have something like the crash of, what was it, 2008, around that time when they were doing the whole housing crash, and there's no regulation, you know what I mean? Things are so new. People are able to do what they want to do, you know what I mean? Selling insurance contracts, like who thinks that up? You know what I mean? Like who, like, the whole credit default swaps and then just that whole thing. And you're learning a lot of these systems are new. A lot of, what else is new? Just the regulation is new. Finance, there's definitely a lot more regulation that, whatever, it's not really my thing, but that could be useful. Even the way to make money, like, when people talk about their retirement funds and things like that, like that, there's so many other ways to like generate money to put in your portfolio. I'll say that, there's so many different ways. You have real estate, you have the stock market, but there's so many different ways. And that area is wide open for people to really come up with other ways to, to generate funds and create money for your portfolios.
That's great that you said that, because my next question was going to be, how do you beat the system? How do you beat the game?
Oh, you can't beat. The game is not to be beaten. The game is not. The game was designed never to be beaten. It's like being 7 and playing Monopoly with a 16-year-old. Like you're not going to win. You're not going to win, because the minute you think you're going to win, the rules change, And so I believe that, for people who are interested to learn, and you can do some nice things in the stock market. You can do some nice things with finance, like get in, get what you got to do and go ahead and take that money and do something with it. But really you can't beat the system. The only thing that you can do is create a new system. And that's where we are right now, is to create a whole new thing. You can't tear this one down. Don't worry, it's going to destroy itself. Our focus just needs to be creating something new.
What does that look like?
So many, it just depends on what area, but it looks so, my theories, not even my theories, but this is the matrix. We're living in a matrix, and the matrix, how I like to describe the matrix is a computer system, that really works off of the laws of low vibration, death, unbalance, evil, lack, definitely lack. And what we have to do is we have to step out of the matrix. Like it's time to step on out, and go into a different program and adopt a different program. And I call this program Alkebulan. Alkebulan is not a new word. It's one of the many ancient terms for Africa. For those who don't know, Africa is not an African name. That's a European name. What was it? Africanus who came and quote unquote discovered Africa, and they named it after him, but Alkebulan is one of the ancient names of the motherland. But I like to also think of this new program as Alkebulan. And this program really sits on the laws of nature. And the laws of nature being the laws of plenty, the laws of love, the laws of high vibration, the laws of Ma'at. These are the laws that we need to follow, because in the matrix, it's all about death, murder, death, kill. Who is
Ma'at?
Ma'at is actually one of the European deities. Excuse me. Fuck off. Let's delete that. Excuse me. It's one of the Egyptian deities. And she was all about balance. She was all about balance and just the laws of give and take and being properly in balance. So we want to study and know the laws of Ma'at.
So a new world in which there is balance, there's love, there is abundance.
Yes.
Let's talk about that new world a little bit more. What does that look like? So, clearly for everybody who's watching and who knows NOIRpress and NOIR Labs and NOIR Fest, right? The idea is to manifest a new reality through storytelling, right? Through collective visualization, through film curation. So for us, it's about just dreaming first. Black dreams on screen, Black dreams on paper, Black dreams everywhere. What do we want? And so I want you to share with the people what your vision is for Alkebulan. What does it feel like? What happens there? What does it look like?
It feels wonderful. It feels beautiful. It looks beautiful. Absolutely amazing. It looks like people really being connected to themselves, to their families, to their loved ones. It looks like everybody is fed, abundantly. It looks like we're growing our own foods. What is organics? It's really interesting that a lot of the things that's popular now, organic foods and, herbs and greens. If you're back in the village now, that's just, at least back in the day, that was regular. That's just what it is. Organic. what do you mean?
Just going to pull the bush from, and chop it up and cook it.
Exactly. Go to the oha tree, pick your oha, make your, cultivate your yams. Of course, it's organic. So just getting back to that, people tending to the land, having their own food, eating, just highly alkaline, high vibrational foods. We've lost this food we're eating is just, I don't want to say it's trash, but it's trash. Like your nutritional value from it is not there, but it's what we have. It's for real, versus when you have it in the ground and the science of that, they say that like, if you're growing a garden and you're putting, just your, some sort of your DNA in the garden is able to know what it is that you need. You know what I mean? They said if a pregnant woman pees in the garden will be plentiful because the garden knows there's more mouths to feed. You know what I mean? So just getting into that, really getting into the spiritual technologies, a lot of these gadgets, these cell phones, these MP3 players, I don't know if we still using those, but all those things, you know what I mean? All of these they're just props, you know what I mean? They're just props. How many times have, and for the people who know me, how many times have, you thought about me and then I call you, you know what I mean? Or I've thought about somebody and they call me, you know what I mean? That's the technologies. We could just go and start talking to people. Like we don't, like I said, these things are props. These things are props. And so really getting, back into these things, the spiritual technologies and natural technologies, really understand the power of the minerals we have around us, the crystals, organized, the nature, the education, children learning all the things, learning the spiritual sciences, learning astrology, learning the sacred geometry, learning how to eat to live, learning all these things, you know what I mean? And things that allow their, their beings to glow and to flourish. See everybody happy, chilling, relaxing. Like you don't have to, of course you contribute to your community, but you don't have to work 40 hours to pay your rent. What is rent? You have the house, you live in the house, you live in the land, you live with your people, you're close to everybody. One of the things being in New Jersey that I don't like is I'm not close to anybody. You know what I mean? Yes, we have neighbors, but we don't know them people, and that's also different. In Atlanta, you could go to the grocery store and make a new friend, you know what I mean? And Alkebulan feels like that. It just feels like love. It feels like health. Why do you need to get sick? There's not really that need. You know what I mean? And if it is, it's significant. It's not just everybody is sick. Everybody's well. Everybody's happy. There's balance, there's love, abundance. I think lastly, just to kind of answer that question, one of the sayings, the quotes that I have that kind of sum it up is, in Alkebulan, in this new world, abundance is assessed by everyone, abundance is assessed by everyone, peace is a constant, and humanitarianism is no longer practiced, but mastered. All these things. Yeah.
So Alkebulan. A lot of people be watching and they be like, all that sounds great. That's so crude. Whatever. We're stuck. We're stuck. Like, what are we gonna do? Like it's America. How do you actually build such societies?
Oh, I love these questions. They start from inside. You know what I mean? Everything starts from inside. Shout out to my sister, Dr. Naima Nefertiti Royal. Girl, I love you. She is the founder of We Are OMG, which I'm also co-founder of We Are OMG, which is a nonprofit that helps not even to help. We are building sustainable villages all over the world. We have connections in Hawaii, in the Gambia, in Zimbabwe, and Tanzania. And actually our first community will be in Hawaii. But one thing that she'll say, she's like, listen, we're here to grow and to evolve, to learn and to evolve. You know what I mean? And we have to learn and evolve in order to get this thing right. The reason the world looks crazy is because we're crazy. We're all crazy. Black, white, whatever. We're all messed up on the inside. And in order to materialize Alkebulan, it's not something that you do on the outside, because we've seen a lot of the movements, right? A lot of the movements of the past, it happens, something happens, somebody gets killed, it fizzles out, et cetera, et cetera. It's really a personal journey, like individual, like I, me, myself, and I, you know what I mean? And it really starts from there, healing our wounds, healing our traumas, forgiveness, love for ourselves, not even the next person next to us, not even our mama, not even our daddy, but ourselves, learning how to love ourselves. And then from that love, we're able to extend it out to others, our mama, our daddy, our kids, our auntie, our uncles, you know, the person down the street. And once we have that peace within us, once we have that love within us, once we're practicing these things, then automatically whatever we do, we'll go forth and we'll build these things. You know what I mean? It's just the natural divine order of things.
So were you always this evolved, or did you have to did you have a personal healing journey that you had to
yeah. Absolutely. No, I was not always this evolved, I think. And I'm still growing every single day. But it was definitely that, goodness, every day. Even last week, am I the same person I was last week? No, you know what I mean? We might have had a conversation. I might have had a conversation with one of my sisters and my brothers. Shout out to Kerline. Shout out to Mr. Tion Trice, you know what I mean? Who we're learning from each other each day. And from that conversation, it's like, wow, ooh, okay, this is what I need to learn. You know, this is what I need to do. So no, God gave me a lot of trying experiences. My life has really whooped my behind. You know, and at the time it was so devastating. It was just like, why me? Why this? One after the other, nonstop. And I'm so grateful for this place I am now, because, and this is for everybody that's listening, like these things that you're going through are learning opportunities. What can we learn from this? Somebody hurt you. What are they reflecting to you? You know what I mean? What can you learn from their behaviors? What trauma are they going through that you're actually going through on the inside? You know, and so having these opportunity to, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger ultimately, you know, to really sit back, lick my wounds and be like, okay, God, what's up? You know? But, and getting closer and closer to source, closer to the Most High, the ancestors, you know, just all the spiritual folk that's helping out, you know. But everything is an exercise, and every day I personally, you know, I get better and better. So no, I wasn't always like this. Not always like this.
I'm asking, you know, I'm asking questions. So I want to know what you did to heal, you know, and I know we're still healing. It's an ongoing thing. It's a circular process, you know. But what did you do differently? And what did you have to heal from?
Girl, that's an hour in itself, that list.
I will wait.
I had to, you know, my childhood was also very, very abusive, you know what I mean? And I didn't realize that until, because you think that's just the way. Then you get older, you're like, no, this is not really right. And then you have a child, you know, I have my prosperity, and you're like, oh yeah, absolutely the hell not. You know, and really coming to terms with that. Ooh, my laptop is about to, excuse me, y'all. Let me plug in my laptop. Coming to terms with that. So many things. Like you said, the marriage, that thing, relationships, money, just everything, friendships, just, oh my goodness, self-feeling, you know, just, because the thing is, when you grow up in a certain kind of way, it impacts you in ways that you even have no idea. Your self-esteem, your awareness, your self-confidence. And then when you don't have those things and you enter out in the world, more things happen, and you don't necessarily have the foundation to really help you through those things. And which it just creates more and more opportunity. So I think one of the things I did to heal as a process is, I don't know, there's just definitely a lot of prayer and a lot of reading. I did a lot of reading, a lot of like, you know, autobiographies, you know, a lot of people with this whole, I'm trying to think who, some of the people I read back in the day, you know, just the whole new age movement thing. I did a lot of reading, you know, what is all of this? What's happening? To try to gain some understanding. And then a lot of prayer, you know, just my relationship with the Most High just really, 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 really grew, because these things, what can you do? You know, God sometimes gets you to zero so that you can look upon the Most High and say, Most High, I need your help. Spiritual folks, I need your help. You know, and the thing is, we operate off of free will, you know, so of course they're helping us out every day, but there's only so much that they can do, you know, without our permission, our free will to say, God, please help me with this. I'm trying to think. Like I tell you, I don't even remember what happened the day before. So
you wipe the slate clean every morning.
I wipe the slate every morning.
You don't remember any day or moment. So I often talk about this NYU event that I had and how depressing it was, and how that was a moment for me. You know, like that was one of those zero moments where you're like, okay, Jesus, you know, and then it forces you to learn about yourself, like things that you wouldn't, you start going through all these, you have all these triggers, and it just everything, you know, everything gets triggered, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Where did all of this come from? And then, you know, and like you said, the Holy Spirit, divine intervention will just show up and be like, you need to read this book. This book will just show up on your path. And it's like, you read the book and it's like, oh, that's what this is. Okay. And then you read the next book and the next book. Was there a moment for you where you were like, I have to change this shit. This is no more of this.
So many moments. So many moments. It's like, it's levels to this thing. It's so many levels. Let me think. There's just I don't know. I do remember one time, I think what pops up in my head, it was me, and it was, you know, one of my besties, my big bestie, Miss Curleen, and it was a tough time. It was a tough time. And we were both sitting at the lake, and it's just everything to not just hop into that lake. You know what I mean? And there have been multiple instances in my life where it's just like, you know what? Let's just wrap this thing up and just end it. You know what I mean? I'm done. This is a wrap. But then also I know that, you know, I'm praying that this is my last lifetime here in this in this human experience. So, you know, I know that's also why I'm still going and trucking and getting all the karma dharma out the way so I can learn, so I can evolve and get the hell out of Dodge. So that's one of the times. And, you know, during that time, okay, I know. The Secret. I'm not even gonna lie. The Secret. Remember that movie? The book? The movie came out. We had the bootleg. And when I tell you, we watched that thing. I watched that thing every single day. Oh, so my thought, I could create my reality if I change my thoughts. Who said this? Let me try this out. And I think that was I think that's it right there. Where it's like, I can make the change. It's up to me. You know what I mean? This whole thing is me. This is me. You know, we're just God wanting to express itself through all the experiences. So we're going to have all the experiences because God wants to have the experience. But in whatever experience we want, God wants to have it too. So I think that was the turning point. And then really focusing on the thoughts, you know, thinking positive, you know, saying what you want, watching your words, you know, and of course there's levels to that. That's kindergarten, that's preschool, you know, there's levels to that. But I would say that might be one of the turning points.
So that takes us into the question of spiritual technology, right? What does that term spiritual technology mean to you? You talked a little bit about it earlier. I want you to kind of break it down for the people.
Spiritual technology, it means being able to tap into the spiritual, the natural, the metaphysical elements, elementals, thoughts, processes, concepts that are available to us, and being able to utilize them for our greatest good. You know what I mean? So for example, I know one of the things that we were discussing today is like spiritual technologies and enterprise, and what that means. As we're building the new world, as there are many of us melanated people that's really coming together, and non-melanated people, to really create this thing, especially for us melanated folks. We can't do it like we did it in the past. We can't beat the system with guns. Not that you shouldn't be armed. That's a whole nother conversation. But we can't beat it with that. We can't beat it with a bat. We can't beat it with a bottle. You know what I mean? The only thing that we really have is our spiritual connection. And that's what makes us a very, very powerful people is, our melanin really connects us to a deeper source.
How does that work?
The melanin or... Well, our melanin, that's still a topic that I'm still studying, you know what I mean, and really wanting to get into. But when we look at melanin, we're looking at really like allowing like a component, a substance within our being that allows us to connect with our pineal gland, you know what I mean? Our pineal gland being like the gland, like almost like how many senses do our have? Whatever senses we have, the other one. The sixth sense. There we go. The pineal gland, helping us with our sixth sense, our third eye, those whole things, and really allowing melanin helps, with that, the production of melanin connecting us to the sun. You know what I mean? Allowing sun to be our nourishment, and the information that the sun gives us, like it goes deep. I mean, look, sun can power your house. That's wild. Can power this whole world. How much more? What can the sun do for you? And so melanin helps to really, like the human photosynthesis of that. So that whole connection is
what should we be doing with our spiritual? How should we be utilizing spiritual technology on a day-to-day basis, especially as Black people?
I think one intention. That's one. Just understanding that it's something that we have and it's something that's important. When we're doing these movements, it's not just about the movements themselves. It's about the spirituality behind them. So as people are marching, and everybody plays a role. You know what I mean? Everybody plays a role. What is your role to play? So while people are marching, people need to be praying. You know what I mean? Eventually everybody need to be praying, but you know what I mean? We need to be connecting to our source, connecting to our ancestor. Ancestor veneration is so important, and connecting to the people who we've lost, but that's also connecting to our DNA, because all our ancestors, that's our DNA, that's us. So when we honor our ancestors, we are honoring ourselves and allowing goodness to come into our hearts. Protection, that's another one. Using spiritual technologies for protection. Like I said, with a lot of these movements, something always happens. You know what I mean? What's the spiritual protection surrounding that? You know what I mean? So moving forward, we got to get into the spiritual protection. Using the black crystals for protection. The prayers, the affirmations, connecting with the angels. You want to say hi, Mama? Oh, she just woke up. Well, all the crusties.
Hi, Press.
Say hi.
Hi, darling.
Thank you. So being able to use these spiritual technologies to protect us, to help our intentions go. You know what I mean? To help our prosperity. Many of us think, you go to work 40 hours a week. That's how you get money. That's not how you get money. God is the source of our supply. Spirit is the source of our supply. So the more you can lay in your bed, and not that there's not action, but there's divine guided action. You know what I mean? And if we understand that spirit is the source of our supply, no matter what we need, then that's our spiritual technology. That's what we need to move forth, so that any opposition it don't got nothing on us. The Bible says, I will prepare a table for you in front of thy enemies. Like, they ain't got nothing on us. But that we have to use our spiritual technologies, our metaphysical spiritual things, our crystals, our prayers, our intention, our word, our love. And then it gets deeper too. Like, there's actually like real real like alchemical, spiritual tech. This is just like the surface. For anybody who's really interested in like really getting into that science, please check out Sevan, Sevan, with University, I believe. And he goes like, he has like, talks about the elixirs and really gets into like the science of it. This is just kind of like an overview.
So we got 10 minutes and I still want to talk about Kanye West. It's a must. I just want to make sure that we give people tangible tools for somebody who's new. You know, a lot of people watching might have, you guys, and drop in the comments actually what you guys do if you tap into your spiritual technology. Let us know what you use. But for those who may be new or they're dabbling and trying to figure out, you know, I want you to quickly answer the question of why ancestor veneration is important. You kind of said, you know, we're honoring ourselves. And if there's anything that you want to add to that, I want to give you the opportunity to do so. And then tangible, you know, you talked about crystals, prayers, intention. How do people start? What are the activities that we should be doing on a day-to-day basis to really tap into that divine guided action?
Right. Great question. I think first, number one is prayer. You know, praying to the Most High, praying to the Creator of all, praying to that energy that's, you know, the source. You know, that's one, because source will guide. You know, source will guide us. You know, and so that's one. Prayer is so important. Meditation is important too. You know what I mean? And it doesn't necessarily have to be like sit on your bottom and close your eyes. You know, that's important too. But walking is a form of meditation. Singing is a form of meditation. Dancing is a form of meditation. Taking a bath is a form of meditation, you know, just being quiet.
I went to my pottery class today. That's the best meditation I have ever done.
I would love to see what you made. So all these things is just kind of like being in your flow is so important, you know. So that's every day, just talking to God, asking God, you know, one thing I learned from Dr. Royal is that when you wake up, ask God, what you want me to do today? What is it? And God will guide us in ways that we have no idea about. You know what I mean? And if you don't believe in God, that's fine. Ask your higher self. Higher self, what do I need to do today? You know, whatever you believe, talk to it, you know, and ask them these questions.
How do you know that you're hearing from God? How do you know for sure that the voice is not your mind or your other self?
Spirit is very the thought will just pop up. Very sweet, very quiet, in and out, with no attachments. You know, when you hear Spirit's voice, there's really no attachments. Your own voice, there's a lot of attachment. It's like, if you don't do this, if you don't hear me now, like, this is it. It has that harsh kind of tone to it. You know what I mean? And you could try it out. You could say, hey, is this myself or is this Spirit? And the thing about these things is when you ask them to reveal themselves, they have to be honest with you. So they'll tell you, be like, hey, this is you talking to you. This is what we think. You know, and so I think asking and, you know, praying, asking God to, you know, really allow us to hear, you know, its voice. But yeah, God's voice, the voice of Spirit is very soft, very loving. It's not scary. You know what I mean? So even if it's something that's like, okay, don't go here, there may be an accident, you will feel the fear. It will feel fearful. With Spirit, it'll just be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. Yeah. So yeah, prayer, meditation, ancestor veneration, you know, just really honoring the ancestors, putting up a candle, get you a simple white candle, create an altar. That's so important, especially in a new world, especially doing these things, because the ancestors are here to help us. You know, there's so many different elementals that's really here to help us, but our ancestors are like our first line of defense. Like, they love you, they're here, they're us, we are them, and they just want to see us doing well. You know what I mean? And so honoring them, because they're here with us, you know, we just can't perceive them. You know, we're like blind people, like we just, our perception is different, you know, and there's different senses that we don't have all the way. And so being able to like really honor the ancestors, giving the ancestor water, so they have energy to be with us, giving the ancestors food so they have energies to be with us, and burning ancestor money. Like, that's also very important too, because it allows them to get the resources that they need on their end. And when we give in that manner, it also comes back to us. I mean, my finances has shifted significantly since I've been honoring my ancestors in this way and really burning ancestor money, and some of it is symbolic. Take it however you will. But it's something that's very helpful that different cultures have been doing for centuries. All the cultures, us, Nigerians, Chinese, Japanese, South Americans, melanated people have been doing this ancestor veneration for a very, 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 very long time.
Okay, we need a whole session on that. Let's talk about Kanye West.
Yes.
Is he really hearing from God? You know what I mean? We've been, but y'all who don't know, at NOIR Labs, we listen to Kanye West weekly. We play, what's the album? Crisis King. He's a part of our team. He gets me out here doing the damn thing. And yeah, he has, a whole mental health situation going on. And now he's running for president. And you said something really interesting about how, all the stuff that you talked about Alkebulan and building a new world. And I think it's really interesting, the ranch that he's building in Wyoming, the church that he's incorporated, and now he wants to run for president. He has all this sort of cultural power and cultural capital. I want you to talk a little bit about his views, especially the things that he's running on, and how he's being utilized in this time.
Well, first of all, like you said, we really can't talk about Kanye West without talking about mental illness. Like, we know something's up. And mental illness, in our communities is a whole thing, because we have the people in the communities. You're just like, oh, this person is crazy, and not really knowing how to go about that and address that. I'm not a, mental illness expert. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. So, it's very difficult for me to kind of talk in that manner. But what I can say is just that disclaimer. Like, we know he's dealing with something. We all need to pray for Kanye. That's just, that is my stance for the day, for the week, for the life. Like, we just need to pray for Kanye. We just really, really, because he's in a sunken place. Like, we know he's in the sunken place. We know it. We know he's going through a lot. It's probably trauma from losing his mama. I don't know. But we really just got to pray for him. I think that it does seem like he can be being, that he may be being used, you know what I mean? Or they're going to allow it. They're going to allow, his statements, his things, because it really confuses people, because the things that he's saying are they're not wrong. You know what I mean? And that's the tough part. They're half truths, so when he says Planned Parenthood is evil, he's not lying. You know what I mean? Like, the whole history of eugenics and, the history of it. Yes, it definitely comes from an evil place. Where it is now, that's a whole different story. You know what I mean? So we can't take just that bit and run with it for today, because then that doesn't help us. It doesn't help the people who rely on, the services. It doesn't help us. I think what we can do is we just really have to have a discussion and not let his comments distract us, but really allow his things to allow us to really have these conversations. What would it take not to have a Planned Parenthood in our neighborhoods? It's not just about shutting down and defunding. We don't want to do that. People need access to healthcare. People need access to abortion. That's very, very important. What is a world? So the question is, what is a world? What do we need in a world where we don't need abortions? Let's talk about that. You know what I mean? Like, abortions is because of the matrix. Like, that's just it. You know what I mean? For so many layers. For one layer, you can't deal with the kid emotionally, financially. Kids are a lot. Another layer, us not being connected like we once was in ancient times with our bodies, to be able to tell our bodies when and when not to produce, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, so it's problematic because it's half truths. Mm-hmm. He's not lying, but that's not the vantage point we need right now. And I think,
what about the vaccinations? Okay, you can finish what you were saying, and then why don't you
oh
talk
no,
about
that's it. You just gotta pray for Kanye.
what about the vaccination argument?
The COVID vaccinations.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they definitely trying to. That's they. It's like the mark of the beast. The Bible talks about a lot of this stuff. It's interesting because if you read the Bible from just a different perspective, like they're really talking about today. They're talking about all types of stuff. Spaceships and Noah with his DNA samples. But that's another story for another day.
Part two coming up
Right.
very soon.
But they talk about that. They talk about a mark of the beast. I believe that we're not going to be able. You may not be able to get things. You won't be able to go into the store. Like look at China already. Like in order to go to the store, you have to like swipe your phone. And if you don't have this vaccination, you're not going to be able to do stuff. Your kid is not going to be able to go to school. You're not going to be able to go to the grocery store. You're not going to be able to get public assistance if you need it. You're not going to be able to get credit. You're not going to be able to open a bank account. So that's a real thing. Like that's not even like make believe. It may not happen next week, but trust in the next 3 years, and the 3 years is being very, 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 very gracious. That's going to be the thing. We don't need that, and it's an opportunity for us to divest from the matrix. We got to get out of here. You know what I mean? And that may not be, just in terms of your place, geography wise, but just in our heart and minds, buy black, investing in ourselves, let the melanated dollars circulate and circulate and circulate. Us going into these, these more rural areas or, and building our communities, building our compounds for ourselves and our family, to be able to grow our own foods, to be able to sew our own clothes, make our own medicines, things like that. And of course we appreciate some of the things that the Matrix has given us, but there's a lot where we could do ourselves. And that's just where we need to go.
So that brings me to the last question that I have. If you guys have any other questions for Uzo, drop them in the chat. And I see your question, Martine, about sustainable villages. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna make the connection. Okay, Uzo. So yes. Beyonce gives you a blank check. She says, "Go liberate Black people." Beyonce, your bestie.
Yes, girl. Yes. Yes, auntie. Hey, Beyonce, boo. Hey. Mm-hmm. I accept that.
She says, "Hey, Uzo, go fix the world. What's the first thing you do?"
The first thing that I do. Oh, so many things that needs to happen at the same time. I think first, and this is just, this is me personally, is we need to be together. I feel like we lose power when we're separated, we need to be together. And so it will be building these communities, these villages where we live together in beautiful, beautiful, beautiful homes, but sustainable homes. You know what I mean? Like they have architecture, all type of dome homes, containers. They have all type of eco-sustainable ways to build a home. You know what I mean? And they're beautiful. So I'll build a village, many villages, one in Georgia. Of course, we're building a Hawaii, the motherland, Senegal, Nigeria, Ghana, and really build these places where we can come together and really see each other every day. My friend Tian, he said, I don't want to use the cell phones. I want to be able to walk out my door and talk to you. We sit down, we have a conversation. These things are so important, and we've lost a lot of that. So that's the first thing I would do. Of course, let it be sustainable, solar energy, wind energy, water entrapment, all the things, you know what I mean? That allows us to be. Second is, and then the food, of course, the permaculture, the food, like I was telling you, this food is so abundant. The only reason people are starving is because people don't like each other. Like people are greedy. It's a lack. You grow the food, 3 days later, it's all grown back again. It's wild. So to be able to really have that agriculture to make sure that everybody's fed high vibrational foods. And then school, education, that's the next one. Teaching the babies, teaching the grown-ups, teaching everybody, and unprogramming this program, because the Matrix is a program. Unprogram it all. And so let's start with that, have us being together, and then people can relax. They don't have to work doubles, triples, quadruples just to pay their rent and their cell phone bill. Like that makes me sad, just people can relax, people can practice their crafts. We can have our own marketplaces where, because the thing is, whatever you're doing, you could do that for the community and make a living and be good.
If y'all want to come with us to Alkebulan, because we're getting on the spaceship very soon. Don't miss the ship. There's only a few spots on the ship. Make sure you get down with NOIR Labs. If you're not on the mailing list, go join it. noirpress.org.
Yes. Oh, I have to add one more thing. Definitely the press, and that's what NOIR Press is all about. NOIR Labs, being able to create these things, and NOIR Press, like it's so important, because what are our news? News is also programming. We need to hear the things that really speak to our souls, that the other side of Black liberation, the Black glory, as you said. That's what we need to read about every day. That's what we need. So that's also on my list on the blank check.
The aspirational Blackness. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, my love, this has been so much fun. We're going to do this, very, very soon again. Next week, we have Tiffany Norwood on the show. Those of y'all who've been paying attention, you've heard me talk about her a lot. I'm super excited to bring her on. She is one of the pioneers of the .com era, and, a sister who is just, she's an Alkebulan. She's coming with us to so
she's amazing.
All right. So stay connected, join the mailing list, subscribe to us on YouTube. Don't play around, because there's going to be some dope content coming through the pipe. Let us know what you want to see from us, what you want to hear from us. Follow us on Instagram. If you're not on Instagram already, send us the content that you want to see more of. And eat your greens, take your vitamin C, get your sunlight, and hug your people. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Lolade.